Florence, an Italian city steeped in ancient history. The river Arno flows through its center. Close to the famous Ponte Vecchio stands a magnificent, many-windowed building with slightly graying walls. This is the Uffizi Gallery, a sanctuary of Renaissance paintings that every art enthusiast must see at least once. More than 1 million visitors from around the world pass through this museum each year. The museum's name derives from the building's history. It once housed the administrative offices, Uffizi, of the Florentine government. The collections inside the Uffizi Gallery today began with works of art displayed in the building by the ruling Medici family. In 1591, the government implemented a request system that allowed the residents of Florence and visitors to view these works of art. The Uffizi Gallery can thus be considered one of the oldest museums in the world. Works of art, primarily paintings by Italian artists from the 13th to 18th centuries, are placed throughout the museum. One of the museum's most world-renowned paintings is Venus of Urbino by Tiziano, an exquisite example of the nude genre. The Annunciation, painted by Leonardo da Vinci around the age of 20. Da Vinci was born on the outskirts of Florence and studied in the city. A glimpse into the talent that Da Vinci would exhibit later in life is seen in his skillful use of perspective and the detail of his subjects. Michelangelo was the artist who created this painting of baby Jesus and his family within an ornately decorated round frame. He is another artist who had a great affinity for Florence. Renaissance art, which blossomed in Florence, is thus alive and well at the Uffizi Gallery. Many masterpieces grace the walls at the Uffizi Gallery, but the most popular are, without a doubt, the paintings of Botticelli, which form a collection that is undoubtedly the most extensive in the world. This collection follows Botticelli through his career as an artist, from his early work to that of his final years. The Birth of Venus, a masterpiece measuring nearly 3 meters across. This painting depicts Venus born of the sea, being blown to shore by the west wind. Venus, her shining golden hair fluttering in the breeze. Zephyr, god of the west wind, cheeks filled with air to carry Venus along, and his wife, Flora, goddess of flowers. Flora is scattering roses, the flower of love triumphant. Sweet Venus is the flower that bloomed largest during the Renaissance. The Annunciation, Botticelli's fresco depicting the visit of Archangel Gabriel to Mary with news that she has conceived the Christ child. The lily carried by Gabriel symbolizes Mary's purity. Many flowers and plants appear in Botticelli's works, each with an important purpose. The city of Florence, like Botticelli's paintings, is a veritable garden. Indeed, its name is based on the fact that the people of ancient Rome called this place Flora's town after the goddess of flowers. The floral theme is also found in this symbol of Florence, Santa Maria del Fiore, or Holy Mary of the Flower in English, a cathedral crowned by a giant dome. Florence, this city of flowers, bustled with activity during Botticelli's life, from the 15th through the early 16th centuries. The Golden Age of Florence attracted many men of outstanding ability and spurred competition for their artwork. Botticelli was truly a man of his times. The Lives of the Most Excellent Painters, Sculptors, and Architects, written by art historian Giorgio Vasari in the 16th century, is the oldest book chronicling the lives and works of Renaissance painters and sculptors. The book contains a page about Botticelli. According to Vasari, Botticelli was quick to master whatever he put his mind to, but he was a restless child. Botticelli's father, worried about his son's future, sent him to apprentice with a goldsmith. Back then, goldsmiths worked closely with artists. As the story goes, Botticelli became fascinated with painting and decided to pursue life as an artist. Eventually, Botticelli distinguished himself as an artist, and his talent was recognized by the Medici family, who held the reins of power in Florence. The adoration of the Magi, depicting the three sages coming from the east to celebrate the birth of Christ, is a much-loved theme of the Medici family. The figure of the Magus kneeling before Mary bears a resemblance to Cosimo de' Medici, founder of the prosperous Medici dynasty. Other figures in this scene also represent members of the ruling family. Across from Mary to the right is Lorenzo de' Medici, nicknamed Lorenzo the Magnificent, who controlled Florence during the most brilliant period of the Renaissance. Behind him, looking out at the admirer of this work, is none other than Botticelli himself. Botticelli became a favorite in the art circles of Florence through the patronage of Lorenzo the Magnificent. The Medici family maintained several cottages on the outskirts of Florence. The villa at Careggi, in the hilly area northwest of Florence. Botticelli was among Lorenzo's invited guests and apparently came to visit quite frequently. The Medici villa was at the forefront of Florentine culture, where the educated class gathered to recite poetry and debate philosophical issues of the day. As a guest, Botticelli too would undoubtedly have breathed in the air of new culture that permeated this environment. La Primavera, a painting at the Uffizi Gallery that is as high in popularity as the birth of Venus. This masterpiece reflects the influence that the cultural milieu, fostered largely by Lorenzo the Magnificent, had on Botticelli. The characters that appear in this painting are the topic of some interpretation, but the woman in the center who seems to rule this realm is thought to be Venus, the goddess of love. The three characters on the right are likely Zephyr, god of the west wind, the nymph Chloris, and Flora, the goddess of flowers. Cupid, Venus's son, is aiming his arrow of love toward Venus's handmaidens, the three graces, pleasure, chastity, and beauty. At the far left, wearing a traveler's hat, is Mercury, messenger of the gods. Unfortunately, Botticelli did not reveal anything about who commissioned the work, or when, or what meaning it held. An opportunity to address the curiosity of art historians came when the painting was restored in 1981. The grassy section of the picture had been somewhat obscured owing to discoloration of the varnish that had been applied as a surface coating. When this layer was cleaned up, it revealed a proliferation of vividly colored flowers.
This is a cornflower. This is one of the flowers that appears here and there in the painting La Primavera by Botticelli.
Guido Moggi used to teach botany at the University of Florence. When La Primavera was being restored, one of the technicians called Professor Moggi for his expert opinion on the plants depicted in the painting. He carefully studied the painting and was astounded by Botticelli's keen eye of observation. In the grassy section alone, Botticelli had painted 500 plants from more than 40 varieties.
Botticelli has accurately reproduced these plants. He must have had living plants nearby when he painted. Or maybe he went to pick them, or had someone gather them for him, because he has presented them in such fine detail. This is very important. You see, it is thought that artists began realistically depicting plant life in ordinary paintings from around the 16th century. To be sure, Dürer was said to be the best, and was very famous for his exquisite representation of plants. But Botticelli lived several decades before Dürer, so you could say that Botticelli was the first artist to reproduce plants with such incredible authenticity.
Levi d'Ancona specializes in the study of artistic iconography. She identified quotations on flowers in books on botany, philosophy, and literature that Botticelli might have read, and carefully scrutinized them for clues to what the flowers in La Primavera represent.
There is significance in all the plants and animals of Renaissance art. In the works of Botticelli is an altarpiece for the Bardi family that is now shown in the picture gallery in Berlin. For this picture, Botticelli added the meaning of the plants he painted. Since this altarpiece was produced around the time of La Primavera, we know that Botticelli was aware of the symbolic meaning of the plants that he included in La Primavera.
Let's interpret La Primavera based on Mrs. d'Ancona's research. The subjects are in an orange grove, and according to ancient Roman myth, orange trees indicated a wedding. Since the fruit of the orange tree was the symbol of the Medici, we can surmise that the painting was intended as a wedding gift for a member of the Medici family. But whose wedding? The laurel trees at the extreme right suggest the name Lorenzo. Two trees of different sizes are shown here, leading art historians to assume the painting was a wedding gift from Lorenzo the Magnificent to his cousin, Lorenzo di Pierfrancesco. According to myth, the lustful Zephyr took the beautiful nymph Chloris by force. Then, regretting his violent act, he married her and gave her a lovely garden, thereby transforming her into Flora, goddess of flowers. We know this character is Chloris because of the white campion at her feet, a flower signifying a virgin's initiation into the mysteries of love. To the right are irises, the flower apparently presented to Chloris at her wedding. The blue flowers falling from Chloris's mouth are cornflowers, which represent the bonds of marriage. They change into roses, the flower of love triumphant, and entwine themselves around Flora's waist as a belt. This highlights the transformation of Chloris, now married, into Flora, goddess of flowers. Flora is adorned with flowers indicative of weddings and beautiful brides. To the left of Venus, another story unfolds. The Grace in the center is Lorenzo's bride. Mercury, to whom this grace directs a loving gaze, is Lorenzo himself, the groom. Flax flowers bloom at Mercury's feet. Flax invites fire, and by burning allows Mercury to climb to the heavens. Botticelli has added a flame motif to Mercury's robe to express this movement. The painting also incorporates the idea that the burning flame of love between a bride and groom takes the couple up toward the heavens, where they will achieve the more noble love enjoyed by the gods. from the animalistic desire that drove Zephyr to rape Chloris to heavenly pleasure. According to Levi d'Ancona, La Primavera depicts the path along which love develops. The painting could then indeed be a wedding gift imploring the newlyweds to follow a path that leads to a fruitful marriage and many happy moments. This painting, which tells a story Botticelli wove in the language of several hundred flowers, is also a gift in another sense. The ultimate gift of the Renaissance for us today. The flowery era in Florentine history that Botticelli reflected in La Primavera actually hung in a precarious balance. The government was burdened by financial difficulties and other problems. And in 1478, Lorenzo the Magnificent was the target of a failed assassination attempt. He hung the ringleader from a window in the city hall and ordered Botticelli to paint the scene. The benevolent glow that had imbued Botticelli's paintings gradually disappeared. The Christ child, sitting on Mary's lap, clutches a pomegranate. The fruit is a symbol of the resurrection. It seems as if the sorrowful expression on Mary's face is a reflection of Botticelli's own sadness. Upon the death of Lorenzo the Magnificent, Botticelli left mainstream art circles and totally revised his brushwork. This painting depicts innocence, shown as a naked boy, being dragged by Calumny, the woman in the blue cloak, before a magistrate with donkey's ears, which implies that he will rule with prejudice. The pain and loneliness Botticelli experienced in his final years comes through in this painting's overwhelming sense of crisis and edgy expressions. Here, even the flowers which in La Primavera celebrated love only function as an ostentatious ornament in Calumny's hair. Statues of artists active in Florence during the Renaissance have been carved into the columns of the courtyard at the Uffizi Gallery. But no likeness of Botticelli is to be seen. His absence is due to the fact that he died in seclusion and was largely forgotten until the end of the 19th century, when his name acquired a high profile once again. Today, crowds of people from around the world visit Florence to look at Botticelli's paintings. If you should find yourself at the Uffizi Gallery, stand before Botticelli's paintings and listen carefully. You just might hear the messages that he wrote in the language of flowers.